What's happening? Happy Sunday. I am Brian Brinkman of Osiris Media, and I am stoked to be hanging with you all here again as we look back at another night at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, my favorite venue to see Fish. We experienced night two last night of Fish's 2021 run. I believe this was show 29 for the band at Dick's, which is just incredible to think that this venue is now up there with some of the legendary venues that the band has been playing for the entirety of their career. As you can tell, I am nursing a bit of a lost voice. No matter how old I get, no matter what is going on in my life, I go to a Fish show and I just like kind of lose my mind in the first few moments of the show, and I end up losing my voice. So I'm doing the best that I can here to stay on track for this recap. But I'm really excited about it. We've got two amazing guests, and we're going to talk about what I thought was a pretty interesting Fish show. There were some really high moments. There was an incredible first set, one of the best jams I've ever seen, and then some kind of strange setlist calls, some strange energy towards the tail end of the show, but still really interesting. I'm excited to dive into it. We're gonna dive into it here first with our initial guest here, Derrick Hartley, who is on Twitter at drhartley1, and then next with Ryan Stanley, who is on Twitter at Setlist Tees. If you follow Setlist Tees on Instagram, you've definitely seen his account. So really excited to talk to both these guys about their experiences, both at the show as well as couch touring, kind of what they thought about it. Before we do that, as always, HFPod on Tour is presented by Shift Genuine Cannabis. And it's really special to say that here today because today on lot, sometime around 3:30, 4 o'clock, somewhere in that window, all right, we are going to go live from Shakedown today. There is a big Shift tent on Shakedown. It's orange, it says Shift across it. They got a giant American flag that's rising up from behind the tent. They've got their big van there. They've got everything set up. We're going to be live there. Myself, Tom, RJ. I think Brad's going to be there. We're at least going to have a chair for him. An assortment of awesome guests. We're going to be talking about Fish Summer 2021. We're talking about the Dick shows. And we're going to be announcing the winner of the contest that we've been running here for the last month to send two people to Vegas for the October 30th and 31st shows, plus hotel accommodations and $500 towards airfare. The contest closed last night at midnight. Good luck to everyone who entered, but I'm excited to see all of you on lot today. Meet some of you in person. It'll be really awesome to, give everyone a hug, shake your hand, high five, whatever you feel comfortable with, and talk a bit about how Fish is playing right now and how your experience has been this summer and just who you are and how you're doing in general. So thank you, Shift. You've made this possible. We also want to give a big shout out to our media partner, Jambase. Without them, promotion for Osiris podcasts, promotion for what we're working on, from a project standpoint, it just wouldn't happen. Jambase is huge for us. They've been believing within us since the beginning of the Osiris journey. We're so grateful and thankful for it. If you follow Osiris, I guarantee you follow Jambase, but it's just amazing to give them a huge shout out because they do such incredible work in this community, getting the word out about so many bands, both those that you've heard of as well as those that you are still discovering. So incredible work from them. And with that, we're going to jump into the show here. I'm going to bring on our first guest, Derrick Hartley, to talk about Fish's show at Dick's on September 4th, 2021, as well as kind of where this fell into the larger tour and all of that sort of stuff. So, Derrick, my dude, how are you doing?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you for having me, Brian.
Absolutely. You are coming from a road studio. I absolutely love it. The dedication to
hmm
appearing on this show has been so great to watch throughout the summer. So you're in Denver right now, correct?
Yes, I am. I am in my friend's car. I'm actually I'm from Maine originally, and one of my friends from Maine as well moved out here a few years ago, and we've been trying to be able to link it up to be able to get to Dick's, but I just haven't been able to get it to happen until now. So it's very
Man.
exciting.
So this is your first time at Dick's, and as we were talking before we went live, these are your first shows since Fenway of 2019, which is just a 2+
Yeah,
year gap. I mean, that's on par with what people were experiencing between 2000 and 2003 when they took the
yeah,
hiatus. It's pretty amazing to have that much space between Fish shows, huh?
yeah. It was very it was very hard, especially because, like I mentioned before we went on, I got these tickets on sale last year, so
Yeah,
the trip has been a long time in the making. So when they punted the tour last year and kept the dates, it was just a matter of like, okay, are we going to be able to be at a place where we can have shows at Labor Day next year? And if so,
totally.
where yeah, I'll be there. That my knowing that my next shows were Dick's was pretty exciting.
Yeah, I've had a couple moments throughout this weekend where no matter what song they're playing, I've kind of just had to like stop myself. This is my favorite venue to see Fish, and I've seen them
Yeah.
here a number of times. I moved out to Denver. I
Hmm.
kid about this, but it's only a small joke that like 85% of the reason my wife and I moved from the East Coast to Denver was for this weekend. We just love it. We have friends who come in from out of town. It's the best place to see them. But like I've had moments where I've had to look around and be like, dude, put yourself back into September 2020 and think
Yeah.
about being in a giant stadium with 27,000 other people watching Fish play live. And it's those moments that kind of really seem to capture me this weekend. It's pretty intense.
Yeah, I'm the exact same way. Like I keep saying, because it was my fiance and I that flew from Maine, and we're staying with our friend from home, and just like the three of us, just looking at each other and being like, I can't believe we're finally here now. This is just exactly where I want to be. And to think, a year ago we were just also like, nothing to do, no shows to see unless you got to go to like, drive-in shows and stuff like that.
Right,
But
right.
um, that doesn't really count. It's not nothing like being in a stadium of, like you said, 27,000 people and everybody just being so jazzed because,
Yeah,
you have people who have seen a bunch of shows on the tour or the whole tour, and then you have people that like me who this was the shows that they could go to. So it's
yeah,
like just seeing everybody and the looks on everybody's faces, just the energy is so awesome.
absolutely. Well, let's talk about it. So these are your first shows. These are my first shows of summer as well. Have you been following the tour from afar through webcasts and couch touring and all that sort of stuff?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's kind of like my ritual to the next morning when I start my work day, listen to the show from the night before. So
I love that.
um, it's always fun getting to do that, and also I like scrolling through the Twitter reactions the next morning to see like the particular things that people were really
Totally,
jazzed about, or the particular things that people were not jazzed about. So
totally.
um, yeah, I've
Yeah, it's interesting to see like the
been
community in
following
real
pretty
time
hard.
kind of react to, oh, this was incredible. This was, what were your thoughts, kind of generally speaking, on the tour going into Dick's? What were some of your favorite shows? What were some of your favorite moments that you had heard?
I have just one of the things that I've been loving. Obviously, it's cool to see, to look on Live Fish the next morning, see the timings, and waking up the morning after the Soul Planet and seeing that they opened set two with a 47-minute Soul Planet was just like my jaw dropped. I started laughing, like I just the fact that they're willing to go out there and one of the things I've really noticed is like, and we'll get to it when we talk about last night because it wasn't exactly the case last night, but there's just been a lot of patience and not so much like searching for the next thing, like, oh, we have to quickly move to this, just like letting things breathe and stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah,
And some of the sounds that they've got to in like the Soul Planet and like the Tweezer from Shoreline. I think that my favorite shows of the summer were the two Shoreline shows. Um,
yeah,
they just were they got through so much ground and just like the song selection was great and the jam in those in the Soul Planet and the Tweezer from those it was just phenomenal I thought and their really getting to some new sounds, I thought, than they had in at least the last couple years before not being able to tour last year.
Could not agree more. And you really you jumped from Soul Planet and Tweezer into Everything's Right perfectly, which that was the
Yes.
highlight of the show for me last night. And
Hmm.
I was telling a couple of friends as we were walking out, like, I don't want to speak too soon because I don't want to speak. I don't want to disrespect this jam in any sort of way, but I have some really aggressive opinions about where this jam lands and like the overall
Hmm.
jams I've seen. But I was like, I just don't want to speak too quickly. And then we re-listened when we got home. We just re-listened right now, and it's one of the best jams I've ever seen. I think it's one of the strongest jams that they've ever played. And I think to what you're speaking to, we just had a comment that came in from our guest from yesterday that I just want to highlight here to illuminate kind of what you're talking about. It's from Jackson Richards,
Yes.
who was on yesterday. The jamming and Everything's Right had a festival fish vibe to it, patient and deep drive-in vibes.
Hmm.
I agree with that completely. I'm guessing that you do.
Yeah, completely. I thought Everything's Right last night was just so completely fluid. Like it was like all four of them had like a mind meld going on. There wasn't anything like disjointed. It seemed like as they moved through the sections, like it made completely sense. It made complete sense, as they moved like through movements over the course of the jam. I just thought that all four of them were completely locked in, and that's the type of fish that I like. I love the giant peaks and stuff like that. I love when they get super dark, but when you have something like that it just seems like the definition of four improvisation being four people making new music together. That's what last night's Everything Right was for sure.
Yeah. That's such a good way to put it in. Like the way that you talked about like listening to the Soul Planet and the Tweezer, where there's no rush to get to this next section. They
Hmm.
find themselves in kind of a musical terrain. Someone offers a new riff. They kind of let it breathe. Okay, we're gonna glob onto that. They do that. Someone distorts it, and like within 3 minutes, you're in a completely new musical terrain, and they've been evolving and moving, throughout the entire jam. But like, at no point does it feel like someone saying we have to go here. Or,
Yeah,
no, we have to go.
exactly.
They're not butting heads. They're just like offering ideas and complimenting each other. It's really relaxing to watch. And I wonder what
Hmm.
it's like on stage because watching from the crowd, I don't even think I was dancing. I was just kind of like standing with just like my
Me
arms
too.
crossed, just like my jaw hanging out. Like, are you guys really just literally jamming in front of us and like no care in the world? I don't know. It was
Hmm.
unbelievable.
Yeah, I was the complete same way. I was just standing there with my eyes closed, just like soaking it in. It was kind of the same when they did Beneath the Sea of Stars night one. That was
Totally.
another jam I just got completely lost in and was, just like taking it all in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree. That was a really strong version of Beneath the Sea of Stars. I really enjoyed that in
Hmm.
that slot.
Me
Um,
too.
I want to ask you, so you've been watching the shows all summer. You've been listening. I love the routine that you're talking about. That's one of my favorite things. Is like, even if I watch the show the night before, like the next morning, I get to work, put on the show, and it's like 3.5 hours. I'll go to a meeting. I'll do this thing, but like throughout the day, it's like checking in with the show and really like
Yeah.
having like that alternate dimension in your head while you're trying to do your day job. Uh,
Mhm.
um, Tell me, Fish has been playing at Dick's. This is their 10th run here. It sounds like, have been trying to come here for some time, or this was kind of like on a bucket list. Does the venue live up to the hype for you? Does the vibe of it, like how does seeing it in person, being at a show, compare to what you thought going in?
Oh, it definitely lived up to and exceeded expectations. Just like walking in and just seeing this stadium, but like a relatively intimate stadium. It's not like going to Gillette to see, Dead and Company or whatever, where it's, huge and cavernous. Like something like Dick's is like it is a stadium, but it is a little bit more intimate, I guess you could say, compared to like, a 60,000 seat football stadium. And just the vibe is great. The lot was a lot of fun to walk around, shake down and seeing everybody just being so excited. And Denver itself is just so cool. I'm glad to finally be visiting here. We're actually going to a Rockies game, this afternoon
Oh,
first
that's
for like,
awesome.
probably like 2/3 of the game and then heading
Yeah, that'll
over.
be fun.
So, yeah, it's awesome. It really does feel like a different place, compared to going to like the Northeast sheds I go to, like Mansfield and Hartford and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was my first thought when I went in 2012. I remember after the 2011 shows happened, I said I have to go there next year just to see what this is about. And kind of going
Yeah.
in, I don't know, maybe they just struck fire and it won't be as good as the year before, and that ended up being the best fish run I've ever seen. But I remember walking out of that. It took me 5 years to get back, and every year that Dix would come around, watching the shows from afar and just being like, that soccer stadium has something in it. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know if it's the water, if it's the chance of plague, whatever it may be. There's something in that area that, like, when they step on stage, it just not even like the second you pull into the lot, it just feels like a isolated experience in a really cool way.
Yeah, 100%. I'm in complete agreement with you there. It doesn't feel like any place else that I've ever seen them. Well,
Yeah,
besides
yeah,
besides Madison Square Garden, I guess. But any band you go see at Madison Square Garden is going to be special because of the venue, whereas Dick's is special because Fish made it special.
yeah, yeah. No, that's a really good way to put it. Like they put the work into this. They could have just played that 2011 run and
Hmm.
it been cool. We'll
Yeah.
probably never do that again. But then when they decided to go back and they raised the bar, it suddenly
Hmm.
became this place that, like, if you're going to go to Dick's, like, you're in for something huge from Fish.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
Tell me what your thoughts were kind of overall on the first set of the show. There were quite a few rarities. There was some energy. There was a bit of jamming. What did you think about it all?
I love I love the first set. Is that I am Blaze On is my number one favorite song of 3.0.
Okay.
Just that song, the words and everything, it just when they debuted that in 2015, like that was the first song to me of 3.0 that really felt like Fish. It was a big anthem, that everybody loves to sing along to, but it brings big jams. It's really versatile. You can put it in the first set, you can have it open, you can have it be the big jam centerpiece of the second set. Doesn't matter where it is, for the most part, they're going to deliver. So anytime they play it, I always um, I always get really into it, and so I thought that was excellent. We got a nice first set Ghost, Alumni Blues opener. That was so my first alumni blues. That was really cool, and Cool It Down too. Loaded is my favorite, of the Halloween covers. So anything that
Same.
gets played off that, I'm excited seeing that on Setlist. So I was really stoked about that. Bowie to cap it off was a real nice, straightforward version of that. I was really pleasantly surprised with how well that Trey pulled that one off. I really like the first set list. I like night one's first set list too, and um, but I thought last night was maybe on the whole a little bit stronger, even though the Carini was ahead of anything in the first set last night. I thought last night's set list and flow was probably maybe just a smidge stronger.
Yeah, I agree. I felt like night one, it felt like it took them a bit to get settled.
Mhm.
I thought like it took about 3 or 4 songs for the sound mix to really get right. Like early on, listening to 46 Days,
Mhm.
Party Time, Steam, there was a lot of wind in the arena, but like it,
Yeah.
it felt like I would hear like Trey's guitar and then I'd hear the drums and then I'd hear a vocal. Like nothing ever really felt like it was fully mixed. Whereas last
Mhm.
night, from the second that they started playing Alumni Blues, it was just you were in, and it
It was on.
completely consumed the place, and people were jumping up and down. It was one of those classic moments where, like, they open up with a song that is rare enough that people get it for the first time. It was
Mhm.
my second version, but like the first one was at the
Yeah,
Baker's
checking it
Dozen,
off
which
the
is like,
list.
yeah, exactly. So you're like, oh my, I got my first Cool It Down last night, so like you
Yeah.
have those moments. And then yeah, it had it didn't have anything close to the Carini, but I agree with you. I think it flowed a little bit better. I ended
Mhm.
that set feeling a little bit higher overall about the quality of playing. Then they come out, they play
Certainly.
Everything's Right, and then following the Everything's Right, which we discussed earlier, they kind of, from my perspective, went to this kind of up and down set listing where Trey really
Yeah.
was calling some songs. Some things worked. Farmhouse was beautiful. Mercury had a cool jam. I love Seven Below, but I don't really know why they forced it right then. What were
That's what
your
I
thoughts
said
on it?
too. Completely the same thoughts there. Like, I could not believe that the band that played that first set and Everything's Right last night played the second, part of the second set there. Um,
Good way to
I,
put it.
like, it did not seem like the same band, like Fuego starting. So I'm not necessarily a Fuego liker. I seem to get it every single run. But I'm not, once they get into it, it's fun to sing along and stuff. And sometimes it brings the jams. So I wasn't necessarily 100% disappointed when they went into it, but um, cutting it off just as it was really starting to like get into the zone for Farmhouse, just me and my fiance, my friend, all looked at each other like, what is happening here? And Farmhouse was
Yeah,
pretty, I do really like the solo section, but I just hated that placement so much. And then dropping Mercury after that, I'm like, okay, here we go. I love Mercury. It is another song that brings the jams. Here we go. And then they got into like a really cool like upbeat rock groove in the last like 2 minutes of that I was like,
totally.
okay, they're making up for what had just happened. And then Trey finds the Seven Below riff, and
Right.
instead of just having it be a tease or whatever, just like is like, we are playing Seven Below right now, we are not
Right now.
continuing with this jam. I was just shaking my head
Yeah.
to that. Like, and I, like you said, I love Seven Below. I really, I like that song, and if that's played in a good spot, even if it's not jammed, it's like a cool little like a in between song, like
Sure.
not necessarily a cool down, but it can like be used to connect, a couple larger pieces of the set. But and then Drift While You're Sleeping, I like that song, but I did not like where they played it. And then the Yem seemed, I was thrilled to get Yem. I love that song. It's my fiance's favorite song. We had only seen it once before, so we were
Oh,
excited, but
wow.
it seemed like kind of like a maiden, especially compared to some of the sloppiness with Fuego and Mercury earlier in the
Yeah.
set.
Yeah.
So I thought it was well played. And then Bold as Love, that had a really, really good, Trey solo to cap it off. So I did leave the night happy for sure. But like I said at the beginning, I can't believe that the band that played that first set and Everything's Right then played, the rest of that second set. It seemed like a completely different band.
Yeah, I totally agree with your take, and I'm on the exact same page. I mean, I think the only thing I would add is, I feel like I've seen that show a number of times where they start out
Yeah.
really hot out the gates.
Mhm.
They even come out for the second set. They start out really hot. They play a great jam, and
Mhm.
then the second set kind of moves into uncertainty, strange song selection, strange
Mhm.
placement. um and while there were moments, and I'm right there with you, I thought the end of Fuego was really nice.
Yeah.
I have been an advocate for all summer, and I will say it again. Like when Farmhouse started, I was like, why are you playing this right now? But then I knew inherently they have crushed every single ballad
Yeah.
this summer. There's not a single ballad that they've played that they haven't put everything into, and the Farmhouse
Yeah.
was the
Yeah.
same. Mercury, great little jam. Seven Below, I've only seen it now twice since 2.0. I will take it every show, but also I don't know if we needed it. I don't know. I really enjoyed the Yem Gem segment. That was, I guess, like towards the tail end of the set. I was
Yeah.
like, this
I
is a
think so.
really cool moment, and it was only, I think, only the second time that they played Yem at Dick's, which is really cool. So I think I'm 2 for 2 on it because I saw it at the Fuck Your Face show. But yeah, I think on the whole, and I'd be curious your thoughts on this. Like, I think we've seen two uneven shows that have had incredibly high highs, and that's where I'm at this point in time
Mm,
with things.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and I'm hoping that tonight, they're able to put it together for the whole show because, um, like as a whole, I think I like the first sets of both nights better, than the second set. So, second set, night one was cool with the chalk dust and beneath the sea of stars, but it was a little disjointed, I thought. But last night, that everything's right was just so good, and then to get into that unevenness after was kind of a little bit disappointing. I mean, I was still
Yeah,
there. I was still having a blast. I was still with
totally.
it. The initial disappointment of Farmhouse turned into just the eyes closed, head bobbing, like
Yeah.
getting into the zone in the beautiful jam there. And I guess I also have to mention the tube from the first set. I almost overlooked it just because if you want to see a jam tube, you should be in my crew because I'm 4 for 4 on jam tubes now. I've only seen tube 4 times and they've jammed every single
That is a
time.
good
So
stat. That's a good stat to be on. Well, let me ask you one last question here. So Sunday night, Dick's tour finale,
mhm.
very strong tour thus far, as we've discussed, kind of uneven shows, but like really, really strong highs. What is one song that you are hoping to hear this evening?
One song I'm hoping to hear this evening, honestly, I want another, it doesn't matter what song it's coming out of, but I want another just like wild out there, super long jam out of something that people aren't expecting, like Soul Planet. Like, give me the first like jammed out We Are Come to Outlive Our Brains. Like give me a half hour
Oh
version of that.
man,
Like
oh
let's
man.
bring it.
There, I love it. I know, and I'm right there with you in a sense. Like, and I thought this going into the run, and I think like when I have some hindsight, I'm gonna feel the same way. Like I didn't care what songs they played
Yeah.
this run, and I wasn't really concerned when it was like, oh, they played Tweezer, oh, they played Mike's, oh, they
Yeah.
played like, okay, Fish has enough songs now, and they know how to jam enough songs that like
Hmm.
it doesn't really matter what they play. And I'm on the same page. Like when they opened up the second set that first night at Shoreline with Soul Planet, I watched the entire
Hmm.
collective Fish internet groan. And
Yeah.
within 25 minutes, the entire Fish internet was celebrating and was in this, dichotomy of, oh my God, they're playing this amazing jam off this song that I hate. What is going on? And I would love an experience like that where people are like, you're playing this now? Oh my God, you played this now? So that sort of
Yeah.
shift would be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Well, cool,
I
man.
completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. And the thing is about that Soul Planet, people forget
Yeah,
how high of a batting average that song actually has. When you look at the times
100%.
that it's
Yeah.
played, like, look at how many versions are above like 12 minutes and listen to them. Like, I'm not the hugest Soul Planet fan, but it has a high batting average for Fish jams in the past couple years. So
Couldn't agree more. It's one of those songs that when it starts, people are like, and then when it keeps going, people end up loving it. I've seen some great versions, so I'm right there with you.
yeah,
Um, well, Derrick, I want to thank you so much for hanging with us here this morning. This was a ton of fun to get your thoughts. I'm
yeah.
really, really happy that you were able to experience here your first
Mhm.
2/3 of a run at Dick's.
Yeah.
Um, I hope that you have an amazing Sunday show, and I hope to see you there a lot.
Yeah, thank you. I'm definitely gonna stop by. Thanks for having me, Brian.
Absolutely, man. Have yourself a great rest of your Sunday. Enjoy the Rockies game, and
Yeah.
we'll talk here soon.
Yeah, sounds great, Brian.
All right. So before we bring on our next guest here, I want to thank everyone for hanging with us. I just want to give a quick shout out once again to our presenting sponsor, Shift Genuine Cannabis. As I said at the top here, our contest entry has been closed for about 12 hours now, but we would encourage everyone to check out the Shift tent today at Shakedown Street. It is a giant orange tent that says Shift on it, and there is an American flag that will be just billowing in the breeze behind it. We will be there live, myself, Tom, RJ, a few special guests, talking about the Fish Dicks weekend, as well as the larger tour, as well as announcing our winner to the Vegas prize giveaway. So someone is going to be winning 2 tickets to October 30th and 31st, plus hotel accommodations and $500 towards airfare. Amazing, amazing thing. Even though the contest is closed, please visit Shift Genuine Cannabis. We got a lot that's going to be happening with them as we're going to continue the HFPod weekly recaps into September and into fall tour. We've got some cool stuff planned for September while the band is off the road. We're really, really excited for this. Also want to give a big shout out to our media partner, Jambase. Without Jambase, there probably is no Osiris. They were huge for us from the get-go in terms of promotion, love, support, and we absolutely love working with them. They do amazing stuff at Jambase. So with that, I'm going to bring on our next guest, someone I've been wanting to talk to for a while, someone we tried to have on earlier this summer. We weren't able to have it work out. We're so excited to have them on right now. This is Ryan Stanley of Setlist. Tease. Ryan.
Brian, what's going on, man?
There you are, man. How's it going?
Happy Sunday. Getting better by the minute. Thank you for having me. Been looking forward to it. I would say, all week. And since, like, to your point, we started trying to connect in AC. The conversation is just starting, and it's already a highlight of my Sunday.
I love it, man. I love it. How are you doing?
Really great, man. Super busy. Bunch of different stuff going on. Enjoying the Dick's run from afar. It's kind of a couch. I've been doing more of a fire table tour. A little bit, spending my Friday, Saturday nights just kind of out at the fire table, a couple cold IPAs.
There you go.
Just enjoying the process of life. But thanks, man.
Awesome.
How you doing?
Awesome. I'm doing great. Thank you so much. I'm 2/3 of the way into my first fish run of 4.0. My first fish run since Dick's 2019. I know it feels good. It's it's one thing to like have your day be I've got to have everything lined up so I can couch tour at 7:00. And like yourself, like myself, who throws way too much of my life into this crazy band, like everything has to be done so that at 7:00 I'm in front of the TV. But then you add actually going to the show into it. It adds a whole nother layer of organization and process management to just get to your seats and be like, okay, we're here, we're ready.
You got to put your big boy pants on and get this started, right? Exactly. We're going to do it right.
So tell me, you've been couch touring these. You saw the AC shows. Was there anything else that you saw on this tour?
Yeah, I did Hershey 2 and then all 3 AC. And, I can tell you last time I did 4 shows in 5 days. You take a year plus off in between. And again, it was an adventure. So did those 4 shows and then pretty much just kind of couch touring for now. I haven't actually even seen it or listened to the Shoreline shows. There's some purpose behind that yet. I know, obviously, I've seen the set list. Obviously, I've heard the talk. And so I'm stoked to. I got a buddy who I typically fish nerd out with, and we kind of said, listen, let's get some hang time. Next time we hang out, we'll dive into those 2 shows. It was a busy week for me, but super loving Dick so far. And
awesome.
It's a great time to be a fan.
Well, tell me the Hershey Night 2. That was one of my favorite shows of this overall tour. What was that show like for you in person?
So I got to say, I've got some weird attendance bias going on in the sense that in hindsight, I realized what a great show it was. This was actually the first show that I took my kids to. I have a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old, and they had never been to shows before. We typically were going to wait. I was just going to take my older one. Finally, he was 10. And this year, just after everything we've been through as a human species the past year, my wife's like, listen, I'm going with you to this show. And we're going to take the 7-year-old too. It's Hershey Park. It's outdoors. Like, let's just go, right? Yeah. So super excited. That being said, and this was all like, everything's always about perspective. Sure. So Hershey Night 1, I took a little bit of notes here. The set list for Hershey Night 1 was like perfect for my kids, right? It was like stuff that they like. We had First Tube, Runaway Jim, Gumbo, Sample, like just fun stuff.
Just good songs that they can get.
Yeah, that they would know. And there's so I was kind of like going into night 2. It was like and then, they opened with You Sexy Thing, which the kids didn't know. Into Wombat, which the kids didn't really know. Free was a good pickup. And then I have personal dislike towards a song I heard the Ocean sing, right? So this all kicking in night 2, I was, I was being a jaded vet, and I was like,
sure.
Why aren't you playing what I wanted to play?
Well, plus you're thinking about your kids. I get it. Like, if they know certain songs and like for them, that's going to really amplify their experience at that point. Like you and I could go to a show and it almost doesn't matter what they play as long as the quality of playing is there. When you're bringing someone who really needs a song selection, it ultimately can impact the overall experience. I totally understand.
Now, all that being said, I also, it was my first show back, so I was super amped just to even be there. It was a little bit weird, right, being around all these people for the first time. in a year and a half. Second set, I mean, I remember the Birds at one point sitting around and just being like, oh my gosh, like what is going on? Birds with Feather second set was phenomenal. Whole second set, especially in hindsight listening, it's a pretty powerful show. So I just was kind of sharing, like, technically that's how I felt in the moment, but I don't want to digress from the, the awesomeness of Hershey Night 2. Yeah. I mean, really, in hindsight, would probably put that up against anything in Atlantic City, right? I mean, from being there as well.
That's how I view it from afar. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I had the luxury. This is the challenge of going to a show versus at home. Like, I had the luxury of sitting on my couch watching that, and like, there's less weight into it when you're not there, where you're really just judging it based on, is this song selection properly placed here?
Right.
Does this go into a cool direction? You're not thinking about who you're with, how you got in, any sort of stress in that sort of level. So I totally hear what you're saying. Yeah, and I mean, I'm curious for what these Dick shows are going to sound like 5 weeks from now, when I'm not thinking about going to them. I'm just listening back to them. And so that's a really good point. I mean, I really liked the second night of Atlantic City. I thought that was a very strong show as well. Yeah. But Atlantic City felt like a really fun kind of extended party, that the band just knew this is the biggest crowd. I don't know how many people were there. I don't know what the overall attendance was. Do you know?
Yeah, I'm bad at that. In general, when I look at just masses of people, I could be totally wrong, but I'm going to guesstimate like around 50, I think. I mean, it felt like...
Okay.
Yeah.
It felt pretty big, because Dick's is 27. And, I wonder if like Atlantic City felt like as close as Phish would get to a festival here in 2021. And if, that experience made them kind of want to channel a little bit more of a party vibe, which is what I got, especially that third night just felt like a huge celebration.
It was pretty go. I think even just starting off with Landlady third night, I think was pretty cool. Like, kind of get things in the groove. Is like something a little bit old school you don't hear too often. The sense from the night before, like doing the intro into the MoMA dance was a pretty, again, just kicking the night into gear. I mean, I loved all 3 days. It was a lot, though, I would say. Again, doing Hershey Night 2 and then driving down to Atlantic City. I did the fan art show all day Saturday, so you're talking to people all day long. Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. By the time Sunday kicked around, like I was pretty mellow, just chilling. I spent a lot of time in the ocean, watching the show. But blessed to be there, man. I was, in fact, I haven't been in Mexico yet, and every time I see the videos and the people out in the ocean, I was like, that's where I want to be. I want to, underneath Sea of Stars. I think night 2, Atlantic City being out in the ocean, Squirming Coil being out in the ocean night 1. Totally. There's a lot of just even being there amongst the people. There's just a different vibe, I think, that adds to the party. They play Soul Shakedown. They play Step Yamar. I mean, it gets a different vibe when you're on the beach. To your point, when you're in this like huge crowd of kind of festivals, it was pretty cool.
Awesome.
I'd go back.
Awesome. And so you've been, yeah. I think a lot of us would. That's a good setup for them. And so you've been couch touring the West Coast run, so the Gorge shows. You haven't listened to Shoreline at this point in time, which I will just tell you, from what I know about you, I think you're going to love those shows, and it sounds like you're kind of putting them on ice with good reason. I have a buddy here who's in town who is my dude that, like, if there's a Phish nerdery moment I need to decipher, he is the person that gets the text. I've hung out next to him in every show of the Dick's run thus far. We were just like, during Everything's Right last night, like kind of turning to each other, like nonverbal, just like, dude, you know. And so having that type of person to like share the Shoreline shows with from afar is a really cool experience.
See the guy who was on your show briefly yesterday. You said he's great with the big hugs.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, there it is. Cool. So let's talk about your thoughts on the Dick shows from afar. Kind of, we're 2/3 of the way through the run. Dick's obviously has a lot of lore in the overall Phish history. What have you thought about this run, and kind of where do you see it sitting in like the larger 10-year run at Dick's?
So here's the thing. First of all, again, bias from the fire pit table. It was a beautiful night here in New Jersey. I'm just sitting out there. I mean, perfect weather, fire, just by myself, just being Phish nerd, like in my greatest glory, right? I'm just by myself. I can sit here thinking about it all the time. So there's some bias from that as well. To your point, I'm not trying to figure out where I'm going to be. I'm not, I'm also not feeling the energy in that room. I feel my own kind of quiet, Ryan energy. But one thing I've noticed, and this kind of goes back to really when people started calling it 4.0 before it was 4.0, right? Like 3.0, people were like, okay, there's something different. Like, after Gaslight Box, after Curveball kind of got canceled, Close to the Forest, like when all it started to come together, I think the band has been on a different trajectory. And I think watching, then obviously having this long break and everything that happened in the meantime, seeing this summer unfold in general, one thing I just kept going back to, it's like, I'm never going to say anything like, oh, that was terrible. That was like, you know what I mean? I'm like just super fish nerd. Like I love everything they do in the grand scheme of things. I'll be able to find a silver lining in everything that's there. It's kind of how I look at life in general. So I'm not gonna be the guy that's gonna be like, oh, this sucked, that sucked, this sucked. I will say though, I mean, there's a couple different times when I'm just like in flow. Like they're just, I can't remember, I took a note somewhere, but there's one point during the show last night where I swear that Trey, Paige, and Mike, I'm sorry, Mike wasn't included in this. Trey Fish, and Paige improv the exact same thing at the exact same moment. I forget where it was, but I was literally just like, you could feel that it wasn't intentional. It wasn't a melody. It was just them kind of doing a callback and answer, but at the same time, they all decided, you know what I mean? It was like this synchronicity, which was super huge. So I think these 2 nights so far, echoing what you guys said, set 1 of night 1 at Dick's so far, I think is my favorite. I think if you take out Yarmouth Road and replace it maybe with a Destiny Unbound or something, something else, Mikey, but doesn't have to be anything crazy. But I'm not a huge Yarmouth Road fan. I mean, it's great. I'll listen to it. I don't I like music video. I like listening to it when I'm on the road. But everything else in that set, in fact, and I wasn't there. You touched on the 46 days starting off sound wise a little bit wonky. At home, man, I was thinking I couldn't believe how it sounded like a deep first set. At least, the jam coming into that first 46 days really felt like a much deeper type of jam. Like they were in flow already. I really enjoyed that. The pace of it was nice. I was impressed.
It was really slow and like just like methodical right out the gates.
Yeah.
The only issue I had was it sounded like the sound mix was off.
Yeah.
But like what I could pick up on, and I could hear it, but like there were just kind of like waves of like you'd hear Fish's drums and you hear, but like I totally agree with you. I remember like from the moment that they were into it, I was like, okay, they're patient. They're just seeing what happens when you throw out a riff, when you throw out an idea, and that I think has bode really well for the big moments of the run so far.
Yeah, I totally agree, and we'll get into everything's right in a minute as far as patients go. Even Farmhouse, by the way,
Totally.
The Farmhouse last night, and again, I was a couple 8%ers deep, but I will say that I thought it was one of the best Farmhouse I heard in a long time. They didn't even go to like the peak. They weren't seeking that at all. It was beautiful. It was fun. It was relaxing, very patient. I think they even threw in like a No Woman, No Cry tease kind of in the middle, just kind of mocking themselves in a great way. Or the song it catches so much shit. I loved the Farmhouse last night. I'll tell anybody.
Likewise.
I'm glad I didn't go to the bathroom type of a thing.
I knew like when it started, I was kind of on the same page, and I said this to Derrick. Like I didn't think placement wise, I wish it had been a few songs later in the set. Personally speaking,
Sure.
I thought like we still needed some energy at that point in time. But I reminded myself every single ballad this tour has been amazing. I think of Life Boy at the Gorge. I think of Mountains in the Mist at the Gorge. I think of What's the Use from Deer Creek. Even like the Wade in the Velvet Sea from Deer Creek, Waste from Deer Creek. Yep. Every time they've played a ballad this tour, they've put something else into it that has added this additional feel, this additional emotional weight to it. And Farmhouse had it. It was There's something that happens in that jam segment that like the typical solo segment. They go off. Paige dominates a little bit more. He's playing the Wurlitzer, and just it was a highlight. It was a huge highlight of the set last night.
Yeah, I agree. I love it as well. I would say, and going back to your conversation with Derrick, first night, we'll talk about first sets for a second, right? For both nights, Friday and Saturday. I think so far, I mean, obviously the Carini, as he said, and as you guys said, I mean, I think night 1 wins, but night 2 first set again. Actually, let me dial back. It almost felt. Sorry, my brain goes in so many different places. I could talk about Fish for 17 hours. But I will say that let's talk about night 1 real quick, because I just highlighted that set 1 was I think so far for me the highlight of the run, like as a set.
Sure.
Obviously Carini was the highlight of that set full of highlights. Set 2, the Rise Come Together and a song I Heard the Ocean Sing, which I already shared with you, is not really a favorite of mine. Like for me, set 2 started at Chalk Dust. For night 1, right? It was like the first 2. And not that Rise Come Together can't be a great song, and there's great. I mean, I've certainly Atlantic City, that was fun. I mean, I think this version was particularly special for a set 2 opener at Dick's, right? I was going, and then into Song I Heard the Ocean Sing. So opening it with Chalk Dust after that, the energy was phenomenal. It almost felt like to me like set 1 and set 2 were replaced. Like set 1 felt like more like a set 2 vehicle, and vice versa with set one. So I thought that was really cool and interesting to see, and you wonder how much of that is because they are different animals typically, right? Set two is a different animal than set one, and so
there's a different feel when they walk out that second time, and you
Totally.
realize that, like, the band is whatever kind of like jitters from the walk on for the first set of the show of the run is past them at this point in time. Like, it's ready to just kind of get down to business, to just like jump into it. And I agree with you when I was listening to set two in the venue, and then when I was listening back, felt like they didn't totally know where they wanted to go with the song. I heard the ocean sing, and at some point Trey just said, "We're playing Chalk Dust. We know that it's dicks. We know that when we play Chalk Dust, magic just happens. Let's go for the low hanging fruit." And it turned into a brilliant jam. And that Beneath the Sea of Stars, Light, Plasma, Chalk Dust, Runaway Jim, Slave was probably my, like, if you cut off of the second set and start it with Chalk Dust, that's an incredible set.
100%. And in fact, I agree. In fact, I was also thinking, I was like, so as a whole, was night two, was night one better? I don't know. I mean, if you took out Rise and Ocean.
Oh, there you are. There you're back.
What's that?
I said, there you're back. We lost you for a second.
Oh, I'm back.
You're back.
So I was just saying, if you I think if you take out the Rise and Ocean to start, and then you also swipe out Yarmouth, night one wins by far. Though I will say, so jumping into night two, that whole first set was dance. It was a dance.
Yeah.
Obviously you were there, so I'm sure it was much more.
It was high energy. Like, the second that Trey played like a very quick, just like test out riff of Alumni Blues. And it was like the whole crowd was on it, started cheering. And when he played the full riff, the place just lost it. And from there through, for me, that first set was the best complete set that they played at Dick's thus far. You had really cool jams. You had some rarities. Yamar and Undermined are two songs that are like, even when they're played standard note for note, they just sound a little bit better live. Than Tube, you get like a really surprising jam. Bowie had a really cool patient opener. The song proper was standard, but it almost at that point in time didn't need to do anything else.
Was what it was supposed to be.
Right, for that set,
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I'm a huge fan of Turtle in the Clouds. Got my Turtle in the Clouds. By the way, I also wanted to shout out that I'm planning to win the shift. I've entered every single day for the shift plan of Vegas. I wore my Vegas, Setlist tee today. I will plan to be there. I will be listening at Dick's when they pick the winner, and I will manifest that it is me. So hopefully I'll see you there. But I digress. I'll take it back and say, so Turtle in the Clouds is my favorite Casbot song, probably. Just in general, it's always fun. It's a good song. I like the lyrics. I like the melody in general. Blaze On was pretty cool. Like, it was, it was, I don't want to say average. I think the Blaze On at Atlantic City stands out to me as kind of one of the highlights of Blaze On, I think, in 4.0. Sure. Last night's was good. It was a nice, cool jam. I think as you go in, past Cool It Down into Ghost, to your point, and Yamar and Undermine, like, it was all this dance vibe for what I could hear from afar. Like, it was all upbeat the entire time. Not too high energy where you felt like you were getting blown out of the water, but just enough to keep everybody up on their feet, dancing, moving the whole time. I know when I listened to like the Undermine podcast, or Trey talks about that first show that he went to, and everybody in the room was dancing. That's why he steps up to the the stage. He's like, that's where I want to be, where even the people who are working the concessions, everybody is dancing in the room. And I felt like there was a lot of that, specifically in set one last night. The Undermined, I would say, Page and Fishman did, like, there was a combo in there that was like just a super MVP moment, probably for about 3 or 4 minutes, where I was just getting down on my patio, my fire pit. It was good stuff.
Love it.
And then the Tube, man, it was not a disco-y, dance-y Tube, which as they can be at all. It was this hose that kind of came out of nowhere that went extra long in a great way that I did not see coming. Great placement, great jam, completely unique Tube from what I remember. That's what I remember feeling that at the same time. And then, I commented last night on Twitter at Bowie. It's like, listen, man, if you get a Bowie first set closer, to me, in my own, current state of fish nerdery, it feels like an acknowledgement of the band, of the quality of the first set. It's like, listen, this was a set that we really enjoyed, and it deserves to be ended in a respectful way. So let's give put something out there that we own and that we appreciate, and that's been a big part of our entire career. And so, to your point, it was proper. It was nothing too crazy, but in itself, being a set ended. There was a Camden show. I think it was 2019. First set was pretty fire. They played Tila and closed with David Bowie. That was a big surprise. And that type of
That's a really good perspective shift in a way, because I know that there's a lot of I feel it to a certain degree. I miss the days where David Bowie was a huge jam vehicle, and I've talked with a number of close friends. Like you think about where Stash is right now, where every time they begin the Stash, like you know that you're in for an incredible jam,
Right.
and we've seen it this tour. With David Bowie, it still feels like the band, there's a potential for it to become a jam vehicle at some point. I know that the Mexico version was really incredible, um, but you know, ultimately, they still keep it in the box. But I really like the perspective that, like, and I don't know if this is true, but I like thinking about this, that there's a sense that, okay, we played a really strong set. We have about 15-20 minutes before we have to go off. Let's play a strong David Bowie. It gives us a little bit extra time at set break, but it also, you know, puts us in a position where we're really showcasing one of our greatest compositions. That's
Yeah.
a cool way to look at that.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I agree.
Yeah, I like that. So they come out then for set two. Tell me kind of your overall impressions that everything's right. We talked about it earlier. Like, I think it's one of the strongest jams I've ever seen.
Yep.
It just felt completely locked in the venue. It's one of those moments that will be like imprinted on my brain. Is around 23 minutes they're in this groove, and it just starts to rise, and the entire stadium just started yelling at the stage, just in like, please keep this
Right.
going. And it's one of those moments that, like, you know, they're just completely locked in. What were your thoughts from home?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because everything's right. I don't know why. And it's funny. Derrick kind of pointed this out when he was talking about Soul Planet, but I think even more so with Everything's Right. You take it any top, in my opinion, top 3.0 jam vehicle, and Everything's Right doesn't get included a lot. But you look at most versions of Everything Right in the past, you know, whatever, 6 years, and they are all, I say all, but right, mostly awesome and mostly like solid jam vehicles. So in fact, it's great. If I look at my tweet from last night, I was like, right as this was coming on, let me just see what I said, because it was like, I was like, sorry, I'm still following my spot here, but anyway, it was the fact that it was patient right off the bat, and I was like, no, this is not talked about enough. Everything's right, and it's already starting off patient. I remember, like in the first couple minutes, I was like, okay, this jam can go somewhere, and I'm anxious to see where it does. And the fact that it stayed on point, it stayed on plane, it stayed just constant, fulfilling, you know, a little bit up and down here and there, but really, like I did like a double take. All of a sudden, you know, I had my favorite, is this still Everything's Right moment, right? While I was kind of hanging out there for a moment, like, oh yeah, did I miss something? But no. And so I loved it. I'm a big fan. First of all, I don't know if you know this not, but I'm a life coach in general. So some people get a little bit thrown off by the Trey Point Toll, you know, Eckhart Tolle stuff. Like that, he's a little bit too much. I love it. It's how I live my life anyway. So I'm a big fan of that song. Obviously, it's not the most intricate. It's not the most melodic. It's not like the best song ever written. But, you know, people, you know, kind of dunk on forward people. And I tell you what, man, some of those words I think are going to have an impact on people for the rest, you know, for a long time. So I'm happy to hear
Yeah,
it.
I think I agree with you. I mean, I think it's one of those things that one thing that Trey is really, one thing we're hearing lyrically in a lot of Trey written songs, and Tom is a huge part of this, is a direct message and simplicity.
Yeah.
And I compared it to Eddie Vedder on a recent
Yep.
episode of this, that like it blew me away at some point in college. I went through a huge Pearl Jam phase, and it blew me away to actually read the lyrics while listening to Pearl Jam songs and realize that Eddie Vedder was basically just writing a direct sentence out and singing that over a melody.
Right.
And then another sentence. He wasn't writing like poetry. It was
Yeah.
just like, this is what I think, and so I'm saying this right now. And so when you read his lyrics, it reads like what he's saying. There's not the interpretation is basically, how does this impact your experience? It's not like, I don't think you and I would have strikingly alternative views on what Everything's Right is about. It may impact an experience you had where you had to say, okay, the present is where I need to be, and vice versa. And there's something cool about that, where like we can all be united around this idea of what Trey is singing about. And we all know what he's singing about, but like, you ask 10 people next to you during that song, what does this song mean to you? And everyone else is going to have their own, you know, really impactful moment. And so for me, I saw a version of Everything's Right in Austin in 2018. And it was right around the time, it was one of my favorite things that happens with Fish. And this is like deep, deep Fish nerdery. I think you'll get this.
Ready.
Where like you watch a song start to like blossom, and you have 3 or 4 versions where the band is just like, how do we get out of the song structure? Can we get out of it? And they never really do, but like you just hear every subsequent version they're trying to get out of there.
Yeah.
And in early summer 2018, you heard it at Tahoe, you heard it at the Forum, where every version they were kind of getting a little bit further out of there. And then finally they come out on the second set of the Austin show, this standalone show that literally is just there for the band and the crew to stop in between
a travel break.
LA and Atlanta. And they come out and they play Everything's Right, and it's a 19-minute version, and they figured out their way out of it. And since then, the song has been one of the absolute standouts. So I'm right there with you. Like, lyrically, I'm on board. I understand the simplicity of it, but like I'm on board with it. And from a jam standpoint, I don't know. You really, when they started playing it, I was like, okay, we're in for something. I don't know what we're in for. And what we were in for was way better than what I expected we were in for, but we're in for something. And that's a cool feeling.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And so I would just echo that. I mean, really, it was probably clocked in at 25 minutes in general, and then into Fuego. Which, by the way, I'll also say the opening to Fuego was really unique. I don't think that it is the transition in between them coming out of that long jam. It was like you just it felt like more like late 70s, kind of like a prog rock intro. Like in the stadium, it was a little bit weird, and then it kind of came with more of the main riff. But that was really interesting for me as well. So that was super cool.
Well, let me ask you, just to kind of wrap it up, what are you hoping for as they close out their summer tour? What would kind of be the big like thematic feeling that you have for this summer tour?
You know what? I think they're already giving it to us. Again, I'm a little bit biased because I like everything, but I say it in the sense of congruency. I just say that in the sense of flow. They really just do see and feel dialed in. I mean, they're I don't want to say a different band, but they're playing differently than they did a month ago, as expected, right? It's like, coming in show after show, the whole Deer Creek run, the whole, as it always does, it's built up upon itself. I always just need to say Fishman is the most amazing, at every show, at least 6 times during the show, I just stop and kind of like, do the dog head turn and, and just listen to him for a little bit. Like I forget that I should be listening to him, right, for a minute or two. And then when I find it again, it's like, oh my gosh, like this man is an octopus. Right. I know how much he drives with that. So, I'd like to hear Walls of the Cave somewhere in there. I'd like to hear About to Run. To everybody's point, the Shoreline shows were so talked about and so powerful coming to this. People were concerned what's left on the table. So one thing I've learned, and I'm sure everybody knows, this isn't anything I made up, but like the best part for me about Fish is to expect the unexpected, right? So if I have any type of expectations at all, I'm doing it wrong. And once I let go and sit in the present and just be like, what are they going to do tonight? It's going to be great, whatever it is. I get to enjoy it because it's my favorite band. That is okay for me. You know what I mean?
That's a good way to look at it. That's a good way to look at it.
And then I think, got a fall tour coming up, right? So it's like, okay, by the way, there's a whole nother month and a half left until, they end in Vegas. So.
Well, it's always a cool moment to know, like, when they're closing the book on a summer tour that I think has been really, really fantastic overall. And I think, personally speaking, I don't think we've seen a great Sunday show at Dick's since 2016. So we are due for a Sunday night absolute show, scorcher. Right? 2016? It was a year after this 20, but 2015 I loved as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, the 2016 show has a great Cross-Eyed, amazing Light, really amazing Piper, just rock solid first set, great song selection. But I feel like whatever happens tonight, and you're absolutely right, like going without the expectations, whatever happens tonight, we got a fall tour on tap, and it'll be fun to discuss this tour in hindsight, which we will be doing here starting tomorrow morning.
Totally. Yeah. Never miss a Sunday show. It's going to be amazing. Real quick, I'll just touch on Light. Just a big shout out to Light at Dick's right there. I think for me, Light is synonymous with Dick's. So they played that night 1. I just want to give it a little bit of thank you. It's a big, awesome song as well. Awesome. Brian, you are the man. I really, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for having me. I hope to do it again sooner than later. I hope this happens once again. As they say, the only rule is it begins.
Let's plan this for fall tour, my dude. We'll have you back on.
Appreciate your awesomeness.
Enjoy. Have a great Sunday. We'll talk.
Thanks, man.
All right, bye. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging with us here today. There was a great show. Really awesome to talk to Derrick and Ryan about the Dick's run so far. I'm going to be heading over to the lot here shortly. Really quickly before we run, HFPod on tour presented by Shift Genuine Cannabis. Come to the Shift tent today. Shakedown. We'll be under the orange tent, under the American flag, doing a live show. Me, Tom, RJ, bunch of guests. Going to be awesome. A big shout out once again to our media partner over at Jambase. Thank you everyone for hanging with me here. Happy Sunday. Happy tour finale day. It's so awesome that we made it to this point in time. Fish, everyone, happy, healthy, loving great music. I will see you all here. Same place tomorrow.